So I'm Bianca Buckridee. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the social media operations manager for this really tiny bank called Chase. So this is all the information about Chase. You can go to chase.com and learn about it. But what I really want to tell you is how I got there, because I think it's an important part of the story. I'm not the typical banking executive, if you will. In fact, I laugh when people call me an executive because in my mind, I'm perpetually 5 years old, right? So when I walk into a room and I see our CEO or CFO, it's always eye-opening to me. I've always done really well things in my career. I started off as a fraud call center agent, worked my way up to credit card fraud investigator, and then it came time for my annual review, and they gave me a 2% increase. I'll let that sink in. And I had saved them millions of dollars in 8 months. So I did what any typical 22-year-old would do. Said sayonara, probably in much saltier language than they were accustomed to. And I went and changed my life by teaching kindergarten. So if you've never done anything in your life like spending time with 34 5-year-olds in a classroom, I would challenge you to go spend some time, maybe an hour or so reading with them, and then just imagine that for 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. Right? So it was the most challenging experience of my life, the greatest experience as well, because I didn't realize it at the time, but my concept of the customer experience really started to shift and to change. From kindergarten, I was asked to go and take over the 3rd grade classroom because they had what we like to call behavioral issues. This included throwing desks at the teachers and punching holes in the walls, and they thought that I would do really well at this because I'm from Queens and Brooklyn. So, so when I got into this classroom, these children were borderline failing benchmarks. Quite frankly, a lot of them should not have been moved from 2nd grade to 3rd grade, but you know, I'm a risk taker. Always up for a challenge. So I started teaching, and by Christmas break, I was so down on myself and depressed, and I went home because I felt like I was not making a difference. And if you're a teacher and you don't see those little incremental results, it can wear on you, right? Because that's the power of teaching. It's the magic of teaching someone what something means and how it translates into life. And so I went home, and I was telling my aunt how depressed I was about it, and she gave me the biggest wake-up call of my life because she said, what if it's you? What if it's you that's the result of these children not meeting their benchmarks? And nobody wants to hear that, right? Nobody wants to hear that they're not the best at anything. Nobody wants to hear that maybe they're the ones contributing to the problem. So I went back and I sat down and I really thought through, my goodness, these children, they're 8 and they're 9, and when they go home, they're playing Nintendo. And I'm putting a piece of paper and a pencil in front of them and I'm saying, learn, right? So how am I competing in this world? So I developed a new teaching method where it seems simple in my mind. I put lessons on PowerPoint and I incorporated audio and kinesthetic and visual elements into it. The reason I'm telling you this story is because that's the other part where my mind really started shifting about the customer experience. These kids were my customers, as were their parents and my peers, and I was doing what I thought I should be doing. Here's the book, here's the lesson. Read it, you should learn it, right? That's what brands are doing. They're putting this information in front of you and they're telling you, here it is, read it, learn it, we're not gonna answer anything else. So it really shifted my thinking, and it was one of the greatest challenges of my career, being a teacher, the most rewarding, and I was really sad to leave it, but as you know, we don't pay our teachers anything, so in order to continue to eat food and pay my bills, I went back into the banking industry, and a couple of job hops later, I ended up being recruited by SunTrust to build a relationship between their fraud management team and the frontline team. So as you know, if you work for a company that is dedicated to preventing fraud dollars from walking out of the door, it's important to teach your frontline how to do that, right? How to recognize signs of fraud. The SunTrust fraud team was just not doing a great job of communicating that message to the frontline. So I, again, put my life in a box and up and went to Atlanta, and 3 months later, I had a friend who kept sending me these messages to join Twitter and Facebook. I was very much anti-social networks because I felt they were fraught with risk implications. So I decided to go onto Twitter and just take a quick look at it to let her know that I thought, this is not going to go anywhere, it's going to die out. And I typed in the word SunTrust, and all of these conversations came up about the company, and guess who was not there? SunTrust. So looking back now, I guess I wish I'd been smart enough to know that I was building a business case, but I started taking those comments and the tweets from customers and from prospects and third parties, et cetera, media mentions, and I started just putting it into a deck. And I started tying it into business objectives that were occurring, operational inefficiencies, enhancements that were in the pipeline about to come that I knew about. And back to the PowerPoint skills, it was like a 10-page deck just full of tweets and, what was the bank doing about it. So from there, my boss didn't know what to do with it, so she sent it to her boss, and he didn't know what to do with it, so he sent it to his boss. So it went up the chain to the CIO, and he didn't know what to do with it, so he sent it to the chief marketing officer. And she called me into her office, and to be quite honest, I thought I was going to get fired for going onto Twitter at work, right? And so here I am, the person who's anti, social networks, about to be fired for going onto Twitter, right? It's pretty rich. And when I walked in, she looked at me and she said, "What do you need to do to get this idea off the ground?" I didn't even know I had an idea. So they gave me a really great opportunity, and it really kick-started a career that I didn't even know existed, right? The whole concept of social support. And so I spent about 3 years building out that strategy, created new jobs, new functions at the bank, new job families, brought legal and compliance to the table to actually talk together with PR and corporate communications in a friendly manner. And about 3 years into it, Chase Bank called, and they said, "Hey, we are going to build a social customer service team. Can we talk to you about this?" And it took about 3 months because I really did love what I was doing. I was genuinely dedicated to the brand, to my team, and so you don't want to just take a jump because it's a bigger name. You want to make sure it's right. So what I'm going to share with you is some of the things that I'm learning. I went from a bank with $174 billion in assets to a bank with $2.3 trillion. We have a CEO who drops the F-bomb in every conversation he has with the media, which is great for us. Great for my team when he does that, right? Lots of situations that occur that, impact the brand's reputation, right? We have multiple lines of businesses as well. So the real reason I took this role at Chase, because it scared me out of my mind. When you start something in social media, you start just, dabbling in it for your organization, you're always curious, am I a one-hit wonder? Is this the only thing that I can do? And what was really interesting to me is that they said, we want to create the first cross-line of business customer service team. And it scared me out of my mind. If you've ever worked in the banking industry or any regulated industry, you know that there's silos, right? And so we had mortgage, credit card, retail, investment products, merchant services, auto loans, student loans, all of these businesses, they all contribute to the JPMC brand, but functionally they're all silos. And here they were asking me to create this team that would manage all of that on Twitter. No small challenge. So I'm going to tell you some of the things that I've learned jumping from a regional bank to a national bank. And the things that I really want to impress on you is that if you're going to do this in a regulated industry, you got to get really comfortable with the word controls. Whether you are a brand that can talk about your product publicly, or if you need to talk about it privately, you still have to manage the customer experience safely and securely, right? It's even more critical for us. So this is my beloved team, Chase Support. I have 11 FTE reporting to me right now, and they are truly the first team at this bank that crosses lines of business. So we recruited from the call center, and we pulled pretty much the best of the best, right? You want to have the ones who have the highest levels of empowerment with legacy systems. So I have specialists from retail, from credit card, and from mortgage, and they all sit together. So I want you to picture like the very first day, you bring in 10 agents, all from different buildings. We're based in Columbus, Ohio, and we have about 19,000 employees there. These teams don't interact with each other. They don't see each other ever. They could be in the same building and they wouldn't even really know that each other existed. And then you pull them into this room and you say, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna kind of start a startup within this company and you're gonna be a part of it. We have nothing figured out. We don't even know what your title is gonna be. You're gonna work for this really crazy lady who started this at a regional bank. We're not gonna talk to you about the foundation and how your legacy systems, we just want you to get in there and we want you to do it. So as you can imagine, it was dead silence the first day because they've never worked with someone else from another line of business, right? And if you fast forwarded to where we are now, a year and a half later, if my team is not laughing, I know something is wrong. So I very rarely feel like something is wrong. So clearly the business model works, right? I think a lot of companies set up their social support in the sense that they have someone who's doing the social marketing, routing customer inquiries. That may be a model that might be valid for a year or so, but it's not sustainable. You have to have people from the care organization looped in and caring about this process. We are also doing some targeted things to increase awareness of the channel. We've done virtually very little promotion. And I'll tell you, the real reason that we've not chosen to go out and externally promote this channel just yet, when you're building a team like this at a bank the size of Chase, each line of business has their own legacy systems. Each line of business has their own training. Each line of business has their own legal and compliance and HR team. Each line of business also has its own marketing team. So taking these three major lines of businesses, and oh, by the way, these others, the investment, the auto, the student, et cetera, and taking that and merging that into one framework, it's a huge challenge. So what we've done is we've been targeting, we've been testing with some various targets. So maybe some placement on various contact us pages for the ones that we provide support for, retail for credit card, for home lending. We also did a test last year with a statement insert that said, here are the ways you can chat with us online, put the handle on there. We're getting ready to do a lot more this year because this team has just blown everything out of the water. By the end of the first year, we had sent out over 30,000 tweets and gained 10,000 followers. For a customer service handle, to me, that's pretty unique in the fact that people on Twitter don't follow you unless they like your content. So, and I'll talk to you a little bit about content because it took us a while to find our voice between being the people who manage customer service and being Chase Bank, the brand. So I want to talk to you about a few things. One is how to win over your legal, your compliance, and the people we always forget about are HR and risk IT. How to set up your team, how to find your online voice, and then how to manage crises. And quite honestly, I feel like I'm an expert at it by now, having worked for 2 bank brands. So in your business case, here are the things that you should be thinking about. These are the things that I wish I'd known when I was putting together that first PowerPoint that literally just contained tweets and a text box. So you gotta show your leadership why this is important. A lot of companies still think that social marketing can run social service. They cannot. They have to work together with the teams from social service. And it takes a unique skill set to be a person who provides social customer service. You obviously want to do a little bit about the market landscape. What are your competitors doing? Believe it or not, banks are very competitive. I'll share with you an instance during Hurricane Sandy when we were monitoring what our customers were saying and how they were reacting to the things that we were doing. The directive came down from Jamie to say, so what are our competitors doing, right? So your social customer service team now has to include that stuff in the round-the-clock monitoring for that stuff. I think one of the things that really nailed my program at SunTrust is that I spent about 8 weeks listening to what was being said about the brand. And I didn't just focus on Twitter and Facebook. I listened to what was being said on online complaint forums like Pissed Consumer, Rip-Off Report, Customer Service Scoreboard, Public Demand, etc. Basically, any channel where someone could go and post some sort of sentiment about a brand, I was out there listening and obviously monitoring for my brand's keyword only. This is important because it helps you decide where you need to be. So right now, phase 2 of our strategy includes Facebook, but the truth is we have about 40 different Facebook pages. I'll let that sink in. 40. Each of these 40 pages have an internal owner. Each of these internal owners work with some sort of agency to help them curate their content. And here's the real kicker. They're all using different content management systems. That's a joy. It's a real thrill. Because when you're the social customer service team, you own every issue that's posted via a social channel. So if you've got 40 different content management systems, and oh, by the way, none of those systems are the systems your social customer service team is on, that's a huge challenge for a bank. You've got to figure out a way where these teams can manage their pages, but also route customer service issues to the social care team securely. Obviously, trends, I think the summary of the business benefits, you all know what it is. If you're not in the social media play box, good luck 5 years from now, really. And I say that with all seriousness. I will not do business with a company that does not have a social media presence. I know where my choices are. I know that if a company is taking the time to craft out this presence now, that they're taking it seriously, and that's who I'm going to give my money to. Cost and resources. This can vary. So at SunTrust, very organic, like a free social media management solution and Google Alerts. That's what I built that program with. And it turned into a really great program that's still in effect today. Obviously, there's some larger differences at a bank the size of Chase, so we're talking a multi-million-dollar effort here. But you have to put out there what it is that you want, right? One of the things that I've learned in crafting an RFP for a bank this size is how critical it is to have a case management tool that helps you track this data. Your legacy systems, they may be able to support some of it, but they may not be able to support you in the sense that you're not showing sentiment, right? To me, sentiment is more than some social media solution scanning a tweet or a Facebook post, looking for keywords, and automatically setting it. That may work for marketing, but when it comes to care, is that social media management solution recognizing snark or sarcasm or acronyms or abbreviations, right? So when I put together my RFP for this bank, I found that, first of all, it was a lot longer, and I was a lot more specific about the requirements for our company and our case management needs. So when you're putting together, your business case and you're talking about what tool are we going to use, you also have to think about integration. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, those are the top 5 right now. What is it going to be next year? What is it going to be 3 years from now? And the questions that you want to ask your vendor up front is, what tools does this currently integrate with? What platforms? And when you're a bank this size, I can't live with the answer, it's on our roadmap sometime. We're dealing with money here, right? So I can't go to my CFO and say, oh, I need XX dollars because this company told me it's going to be on their roadmap, because the first question is going to be, which roadmap? Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, which year? So you have to be able to plan for that stuff. Regulated industry controls. If you work in a regulated industry, your best bet is to really pull legal, compliance, HR, and your risk IT teams into the room together with you. If you've already started your program, I would encourage you to set up a steering committee call These are really important for us. We do this monthly where we meet with them and we talk about the various controls. It makes them a lot more comfortable that you are self-identifying things throughout the organization that social crosses over into, especially when it comes to customer care, because there are a ton of regulations that define everything that we do. Within each line of business, we could have hundreds of regulations guiding the way that we do business and conduct business with our customers. Business impact analysis. If Twitter goes down, or Facebook goes down, or your third-party software solution goes down, what are you gonna do, right? You don't need to have those answers right off the bat, but it's things that you should be thinking about.